Welcome to the What is Stoicism podcast.
A quote attributed to Seneca the Elder declares that it is a great thing to know the season for speech and the season for silence. As you probably notice on a daily basis, the reactivity of the world today seems to perpetuate a constant season of speech that has forced the season of silence to become a rare phenomenon. In our rush to respond to prompts and provocations, we forget that talking less can help us be more judicious in what we do say. When we talk too much, especially when emotions are high, we increase our chances of making mistakes or saying things that we later regret. By employing a little restraint, we have more time to think and reflect on what we say, leading to more thoughtful and measured communication. The following lines from the poet William Stafford are a lovely summary of why a more moderate approach to what we say and what we subject ourselves to hearing is a good idea. The things you do not have to say make you rich. Saying things you do not have to say weakens your talk. Hearing things you do not need to hear dulls your hearing. Things you know before you hear them, those are you. Those are why you are in the world. It's the absence of the Stoic virtue of temperance in action. Excessive speech dilutes the strength of that speech, and excessive exposure to what you don't need to hear makes you less receptive to what you do need to hear. By practicing temperance, we can give strength to our well-considered words, and as Cato the Younger is quoted as advising in Plutarch's Lives, better understand the meanings and motivations behind the speech of others. Quote, "Consider in silence whatever anyone says. Speech both conceals and reveals the inner soul of man." End quote. A memorable mantra that will serve you well if you choose to practice this verbal restraint comes courtesy of an old Spanish proverb. Don't speak unless you can improve on the silence. With such restraint comes a question. What should we redirect our attention toward at times when we judge externalizing our thoughts isn't necessary? We all seek distraction at times to get away from things we should probably be paying attention to. Perhaps talking too much is part of that. As we look here and there for external stimulation to provide a refuge from whatever it is we don't want to face, we forget about the simplest but most powerful haven of all. There's no retreat more peaceful and untroubled than a man's own mind, wrote Marcus Aurelius. And this is especially true of a man who has inner resources, which are such that he has only to dip into them to be entirely untroubled. And by untroubled, I mean composed. So never stop allowing yourself to retreat there and be renewed. By seeking distractions from our worries, by constantly projecting outwards, we're really seeking distractions from ourselves. We're turning away from our inner resources and denying ourselves the opportunity to examine and deal with our worries. When we become aware of this, we can start to turn inward more and find that peaceful retreat. We can seek our own help, much like we would do with a best friend. Rather than try to solve everything immediately, a savvy best friend will guide us into asking ourselves better questions so that we may arrive at a solution that is specific to us. Even this considered act of asking ourselves questions is a great first step as it allows us to get to know ourselves better. After all, how can you ever be best friends with someone without knowing them better? Here are 4 questions to help you become a better friend to yourself when life leaves you longing for distraction. 1. Who am I? Or, how do I want my best friend to think of me? This fundamental question prompts due consideration for what we value, giving us guidance on what to prioritize and what to pursue. Through a steady base of principles, we create ourselves rather than find ourselves. If we don't establish our center of gravity within ourselves to begin with, it will leave us constantly off balance and regularly seeking distraction from what we think we can't handle. The actions that follow your principles show the type of person you are, the type of person your best friend would be proud to know. 2. What am I struggling with? Or, how would my best friend describe the problem I'm facing? If we catch ourselves in the midst of distraction, it will be useful to understand exactly what it is we can't face in our own company. With this question, we think of how a friend might helpfully describe our situation in a less emotional manner than us. In the plainest language possible, answer the question by defining the problem. 3. What am I capable of? Or, what encouragement would my best friend give me? Your best friend will tell you that you're capable of facing this, You're capable of staying in the moment, accepting what fate has thrown your way, and not yielding to adversity. This is not empty encouragement, it's based on the evidence gained from knowing you. Bring to mind past difficulties you've gone through, because if you're here now, you prevailed. 4. What small action do I control? Or, what simple advice would my best friend offer? Your best friend will offer practical, honest, manageable advice. They'll tell you to focus on one thing at a time and to disregard the elements that aren't within your control. Work out what your first step is and take it. Remember, it's a great thing to know the season for speech and the season for silence. And these things that you only need to say to yourself make you rich.